Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar focused on the grid flexibility issues and opportunities in Greece. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Dana Metaxas, and I am the content developer of the Solarplaza Greece Summit taking place in Athens on the 23rd of November, and I will be moderating this session today. So before I introduce our speakers, let me give you some practical information about this webinar and some background information about who Solarplaza is. So this webinar is somewhat of a jumpstart to the Greece Summit that is taking place in November. And if you are interested in participating in the summit, just so you know, you are eligible for a 10% discount on your ticket, and the code will be sent to you hereafter by our marketing team. Let me give you a little bit of a background about who we are and what we do here at Solarplaza, in case this is your first webinar with us. So in a nutshell, we are a knowledge sharing platform with a mission to accelerate the energy transition. We were established in 2004. We are based in Rotterdam, but we organize events almost all over the world. So far, we have organized somewhere around 200 events in 44 countries worldwide, and we're currently connecting a network of 60,000 solar PV professionals. And besides our events, we also provide newsletters, resources, and as you can see, webinars. We want to make this session as interactive as possible. So we encourage you to start sending in your questions at any time, and we will get to them at the end of this session, so after our presenters have both presented their slides, and you can post them in the question box on the right-hand side of your screen. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce both of our speakers, Lucia Dolera, BESS Business Development Manager at Jinko Solar, and Guy Vandendungen, CEO at Pulsar Power, who will be both presenting today. First, Lucia will be presenting her slides, and then Guy. So welcome both. Thank you for being here today. It's a pleasure to have you. And Lucia, I will let you take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana. Can you hear me? My pleasure. Thank you, Dana, for the introduction. It is my pleasure to be with all of you in this very interesting webinar, where we're going to analyze how the batteries and battery systems are going to be part of our electric system in our day-to-day. So it is really my pleasure to talk about the taking risk grid flexibility challenges in the hybrid energy future. Just a short introduction from my side. As Bella has said, I'm the business developer manager for a battery system at utility scale for Europe in Jinko Solar. And Jinko Solar is one of the global leader in the solar industry, with really a strong presence in Europe. We are specialized in the design, manufacture, and sale of really high quality solar products, such as PV modules. And since 2 years ago, we started to dealing with the idea to manufacture storage systems. So now we have our own battery in Shanghai, our own factory in Shanghai, sorry, and we have already the products, and we started to have our storage systems in around the world, and now currently operating. So In the previous year, we have delivered more than 130 gigawatts of PV panels. We reached a market share of 40% with more than 22 records in the efficiency in our cells and even in our modules. And the capacity, module capacity for this year will be reached 70 gigawatts. And as I have said, we already have our factory for battery systems at utility scale and CNA scale. Okay, so let's go through what is aiming today in this webinar. First of all, I would like to establish what is happening in Europe and of course in the rest of the world, but we are going to focus in Europe, and then I will go to Greece. For example, last year in 2022, Europe installed 41.4 gigawatts of new PV solar capacity in our system, which means that we increased 47% of what we installed previously in 2021. So the tendency, as you can see here, is that every year we have more renewables in our system, which is really, really, really good because it's part of our energy transition, and let's say we are doing well. And well, the tendency is like, as you can see here, so a huge growth of the integration of new renewables in our electricity system. But this has, let's say, a second derivative. Yes, we are having such a huge amount of renewables. We are really happy for it, but we are facing a huge unbalanced problems in Europe. What's happening? What is happening is that that renewables generates quite a good energy and start mismatching the generation with the demand. And well, the thing is, as wind and solar produce when there is sun and when there is wind, well, it's uncontrollable generation. And now there are times during the day that it is produced more energy than it is consumed. And there are quite there's sometimes a local deviation in frequency and voltage. So some matters in the operation, issues for the grid, this such an amount of generation is happening, and we start seeing what we call this curtailment. What is curtailment? Curtailment is when the operator of the grid sends signals to stop producing. So curtailment is waste of renewable energy. We cannot profit the energy that our renewables produce. So this is a quite alarming situation that is also affecting to our market prices. Now we see a lot of volatility in the market prices. Even there are some countries that reach zero prices for the energy in the market electricity. So this is a very uncomfortable situation above all for the producers, for the investors, that they don't see the profitability with these issues that are happening currently in our market and in the sector, and in general with the renewables. Let me check. So we have to move into a change in our energy systems. So as you have seen before the 2020s, we moved from full fossil nuclear generation, primary energy demand per capita, and then we are moving this green one bars. We're moving towards electricity, and we are producing and we are demanding such amount of electricity coming from renewables, and we have to control this uncontrollable generation. How can we do it? By batteries. So this is the transition from energy generation, demand per capita, to control this renewable generation with batteries, storage systems. Okay. Thinking how we are now in Europe with the batteries and such an amount of renewable. So it is forecast that the storage market in Europe will grow at a compound annual growth rate by 18% during this year, 2023, up to 2024. So the growth for the storage market will be very, very interesting for the following years. This is the growth of the renewable energy installed capacity within Europe from 2017 to 2021, and well, you can see that every time we are currently almost 650 gigawatts of renewable renewable energy installed in Europe. So well, we are like increasing demand for renewable energy. We need a government initiative to promote the energy storage, because well, there are some countries that are quite fast in implementing the solution, but there are others that, let's say, starting with doing things, elaborate regulatory framework, etc. So also the cost, etc. But this uncontrollable generation that we have to it's important that we have it, because if we go for renewable, we have to control it, and we have to give a supply of safety and quality energy to all the citizens. Okay, so regarding market analysis, which are the target regions, just to give a quick view of what is happening now. So let's say we divide Europe in 4 parts, let's say in the north, south, west, and east. Currently, the Western Europe is leading the sector of batteries, and they are like very advanced. In fact, well, let's think about UK. They have a great penetration with the storage, and with anticipating a steady growth, project of 16 gigawatts hour capacity by 2030. And now they are really currently leading the market. Now in the second, let's say, place, we have the Southern Europe. Well, the market is a little bit low now, with a lot of movement, but pending with some initiatives that really support this solution. So now it's like moving, and we have forecast very interesting. For example, for 2030, Greece aims to have a 6 gigawatt target in 2030. Also, Spain is like 30 gigawatts in 2030. So Italy also, it's like let's say in the following years, we will reach a very attractive market for storage systems in Europe. Eastern Europe is also with a low capacity. Well, it will be like following Southern Europe and Western, but well, growing. It will be also an interesting market, and well, I think it will follow the movement of Europe for sure. And Northern Europe, well, I think they are not so directly straightforward supporting solar system because they really have hydropower. So they use this storage solution for their needs. So, well, they are also promoting, but maybe in a slower growth in this sense. Okay, so now just see that it is forecast that in 2028, 2029, the market in the south of Europe will be heading the storage market. Okay, we move now to Greece. Let's have a quick look about the electricity mix shares in Greece per year. So mainly focused in that year in 2022. So it was really impressive that, for example, in October 2022, the Greece electric power system was 100% powered by renewables for at least 5 hours. So it was really a milestone that Greece was reached. And well, some additional data is renewables, which is renewables is the green bar in every bar. Green and hydro, large hydro, they meet 47.1% of the demand. So year by year, it is increased the participation of the renewable by 5%. So I think Greece is really focusing on the implementing renewables in the system. So it's really good. And well, if we take into account or we take off hydro and renewables has become the main energy source from January the 1st of this year, reaching 38.9% of the share. And renewable with a large hydro achieved 18.4 production increase to 16.7 gigawatts, surpassing thus as the largest source in the previous year. So the idea that I wanted to share with you regarding Greece is that Greece is moving forward to be ready to a renewable generation energy, and facing one of the challenges that all or most of the countries in Europe are facing with certain amount of generation of renewables, how to control and avoiding some issues that are happening at So regarding a quick overview also, let's check the latest figures. In June 2023, the total installed renewable capacity reached 11.3 gigawatts, including close to almost 6 gigawatts for solar PV. And take into account that in 2022, last year, the country added a record of 1.36 gigawatts in new solar capacity. So all the figures are really impressive for the implementation of renewables in Greece. For the implementation of this energy transition, there is a need. We need to accelerate the diversification and of course, complemented with the storage system in the line of this 8 gigawatt storage target for 2030, as it has been informed from the regulator in Greece. So, but we have some challenges that we have to solve. There are also some issues and barriers that we have to solve, as the market volatility and categorization of the prices. This is also how this how the market works. Operational dysfunction, so taking care of the voltage frequency, how to score the demand, etc. A certain scale of skilled workers of growing projects, ongoing grid connection and licensing issues. Also, they permitted to the grid shortage of the solar system over is an issue that I think in most of the countries has to be solved. And so, in any case, energy storage suites, transmission and distribution network, addressing issues like congestion, voltage control, and oscillation control posed by intermittent renewable energy production. So we have great challenges, but even more great solutions with the storage. So we have to face with this, and be ready for all these challenges that we are facing. Some data from the last news for storage systems in grid. Well, it was informed that, and news by the government, that a grid plan for 1 gigawatt of new energy storage capacity, and it consists in 3 separate tenders. Last one was, well, the first one was 400 megawatts that took place in July 2023. The second tender will be 300 megawatts, and the third tender will be also 300 megawatts. And the energy storage program will provide with 341 million euros. And well, the initial program, this first and second, will prioritize standalone energy storage projects, and the second one also, well, and the first one is going to be connected to the main electricity grid, excluding grid island network integrated with the mainland grid in 2021. Okay, and the third one is also standalone project in designated transmission areas like farming, coal mining regions connected to the transmission network, etc. And the first one closed the last July 10th, and the list of resolution came published last August 10th. So, well, and very interesting data that we got from this first auction is that local reports that say that between 3.3 and 3.5 gigawatts of battery energy storage projects were applied for this first tender that, as you have seen, is 400 megawatts. So even 8 times more that it was expected. All the movement of and the interest of the sector was really clear from the side of the companies. The interest that they have in this tender for storage system is really amazing. Well, which are the market analysis, which are the target customer segments for storage? Let's see, mainly in 4 utilities, of course, that require energy storage to optimize the grid operations, manage the peak demands, and integrate renewables in an effectively way is really important. And then moving to industrial sector, which of course what they are looking for is reducing the energy cost, ensuring the uninterrupted operations, providing backup during the outages. So solutions like storage for industrial sector is quite interesting for them. And of course, while the price is very high, we have the chance with storage to provide energy in a more cheaper way. Commercial and public sector always, of course, they look for reducing the energy expenses and participated in the demand response program. So it's very interesting, and increasing the sustainability credentials. Of course, is another point that all the companies they want that the people see that they go for environmental, and they are concerned about the environmental matters, and of course always taking into account the reducing the energy expenses. And residential consumers is also a very interesting market, because, well, solar system at the end, and you can provide energy while the night. Also, you can self-consume. The surfaces that you don't consume with self-consumption can be storage, and then during the night time you can be provided with energy that your PV plant has produced. Okay, let's move current trends, which are the trends that we are facing in the sector, increasing of course the renewable and energy integration in our electricity system, which huge amount of renewables, and have already commented this huge amount of renewable needs storage, and storage is crucial for balancing supply and demand situation. Grid stability and resilience. Battery systems are can great performance to enhance the grid stability, especially when there is if the flight the battery's flat is pure, and well, also it can be covered in this area. So the potential of the system are quite interesting. Electrification of transportation, electric vehicle, of course, is one of the key issues in the market. Convergence of electric vehicles and battery energy storage presents for the batteries at the end. Electric vehicle is a battery that moves, so and we are for it in the transportation. We want to electrify the sector also with the electric vehicle. And virtual power plants also is another potential solution, that you have different renewable energy generator sources, and then an integrator that can provide energy to the customers. So the batteries also can provide an interesting solution for making sure that we can provide this energy to the virtual power plants. Okay, potential areas to grow. So energy transmission support, of course, we need aligning with your SIP, with regulation, political support, towards the implementation of renewables and providing grid stability solution. This is one of the areas. Large scale projects, joining with the invest of renewable energy storage, make the renewable projects profitable. As we have seen, all the curtailments and volatility of the prices, zero prices, cannibalization of the prices, etc. So they are now like a team, a peer, renewables and batteries. E-mobility integration for providing charging infrastructure. Hybrid renewable projects, collaborate with wind, solar, jointly with storage system. Microgrid solution, what is an interesting application for a storage system that rising demand for decentralized energy system. Ancillary market, service market, that participate in the grid support services for extra revenue streams. So, this is also very, very important, ancillary service market, and to have a good, let's say, framework that every government support these services that also the solar system can provide with frequency regulation, etc. Technical regulation also. This has to be also let's say promoted by the regulator in every country. Demand response program to facilitate commercial participation in the demand response initiative, and circular economy. We don't have to forget this important matter and second life for the batteries. In fact, there are some now working in some important companies working on the secondary battery and recycling, etc. So it's also a potential area that will provide the storage system in the system. So it's now the moment for the energy storage moment, for the storage, sorry, it's now the moment, we are ready for it. And well, we provide with the storage system the solution. It's the storage provides harmonization in the prices and avoiding the yield curve, and assure the generation, avoiding also the energy discharge. Also, increase the solid capacity for the electric system, assuring the supply, avoiding consuming fossil fuels, providing system inertia, increasing the reliability for the system, and lifting the maximum renewable production. The storage will provide also an optimum use of the system, decreasing the congestion and avoiding investment of new lines. We can use the lines that are currently built, and this is also an important issue to when invest in this investment when it's not necessary. And well, this of course will generate a positive impact for the consumer. This is how we are doing the expected growth. Now, let's say we are moving from 17 gigawatts hour capacity, let's see, from this in the year we are now, and for 2040 we will reach nearly 3,000 gigawatts hour capacity. So as you can see, the expected growth is amazing for the solar system, as such an amount of renewables and all this that has been implemented. We have to take care. And also, just to finish this review of the situation, I would like to review this graph that I like a lot. This learning curve that as you can see here in the yellow curve, this is the learning curve for a PV fixed axis solution and PV tracking. This is fixed axis and PV tracking. So we've seen that it took about 10, more or less 10 years to decrease and to have a very competitive price for PV. Onshore wind has been more flatter, the learning curve, but keeping into account the learning curve for batteries. So from 2010, we have decreased the cost by 85%, which is very interesting, although we have to make additional efforts for decreasing the price. The effort in the investment of research and development has been really huge, and we are beginning to have very competitive prices also for a solar system. So, well, I wanted just to give you a quick view that in Jinko Solar we have a solution for commercial and industrial sector and utility scale. Quickly, for commercial industrial solution, we have two mainly solutions for 344 kilowatts hour capacity and 250 kilowatts hour capacity. Is all the solution is an outdoor liquid cooling solution that the liquid cooling solution can dissipate the heat in a very optimum and secure way. So from the beginning of our design at the engineer point of view and design, we take very deep care about the safety matters and good design and control. So this solution is very flexible. It can be adapted to almost all the potential needs that the client can have. Has a remote monitoring. All the batteries controlled 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. So it's totally controlled. Intelligent operational maintenance, demand response, load forecasting, etc. It has an FP, lithium technology. Some of the applications that can be done here, there are some as a sample for electric vehicle charging station. This can be filled with the energy produced by the PV installation or whatever, and then provide energy to the cars. Also for a warehouse, PV joining with batteries for self-consumption. Also can be provided as a backup for an industry area, or a factory to control the peak value, arbitrage, so buy when it's cheap the energy from the grid and sell it when the grid is, the cost of the energy from the grid is high. So we adapt it, and we can perform in all the sides of the power generation, and also the grid side generation and the user side generation. We have solution for these batteries. Well, this is the Santera. The Santera is the solution for utility scale. We have 3.44 MWh battery in a 20-feet container. And well, the charge and discharge can be 2 hours operation, and even more for 4 hours also. And if you need a faster response, can be we can provide with a solution for 1 hour also. What 5 safety 18? We have the BMS, the battery management system, also included. And we can provide with all the service, the commissioning, etc. So if you are interested, just please contact us, and I will give you all the details, the technical details of these solutions for your projects. I'm not going to go into detail with this. Some examples that we have already operating. We have more than 100 megawatts our capacity operating in Hainan, China. Here it's a 1C solution for peak saving. This is for Israel on grid, 514 hour solution. Hainan, China, another solution for that. For peak arbitrage, here's in India for 1.1 megawatt-hour capacity. It's also 1C. It's off grid and connected with a PV system or 1.2 megawatts-hour peaks. And for Nigeria, there are some off grid here connected with PV and to be in a rush. And when the strategy for Jinko is have a sustainable business as successful as PV, and building trust in our solution, and offering, of course, closed services and into a high-level engineering and services. So thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any question, I will be really pleased to talk to you afterwards.
Thank you very much, Lucia, for a great presentation. We really enjoyed it. I hope our audience did too. And yeah, at this point, I would like to move on to Guy's presentation as well. So welcome, Guy, once again. You may now switch on your camera and your microphone. And yeah, just take it away.
All right. Thank you very much, Dana. And thank you for the presentation as well, Lucia. I think it was indeed very interesting. I'd like to give you a brief overview of the challenges that you might encounter when you're trying to connect distributed generation, whether it's solar or wind or storage, into the grid market. But maybe for those people who don't know us yet, Pulsar Power, we are an independent engineering company active across Europe, headquartered in Belgium, with a lot of senior people, especially focusing on grids, large-scale, utility-scale solar plants, for example, and at this moment a few gigawatt of battery projects that we are supporting for mainly investors and developers. We do this typically through a collaborative innovation approach, so with a large network that we contain. And maybe also important, this one is that we are also recognized as being able to provide bankable reports in order to support financing for this kind of projects, which is becoming more and more of an issue, of course, in this changing landscape. By looking at grid connections in Greece, one has to realize that the grid in Greece is still very weak. And that has its challenges. So for example, just a few numbers. In 2020, out of the 913 megawatt of new solar PV projects were installed, only half of those were getting grid connected. More or less a similar situation in 2021, where even some projects of 2020 were still not connected by the end of 2021. There has been a major upsurge of grid connected projects in 2022 with about 1.3, 1.4 gigawatts. But still, it is quite a challenge to get your grid connection in place. So you need to do your homework up front, and this is something not to be underestimated. There are still significant barriers for licensing, for permanent connection requirements, etc. On the positive side, legislative changes are moving quite rapidly, and I must admit that the Greek government is one of the governments in Europe that is really trying to get away of all the barriers and making it a lot easier to get renewable energy projects into their, let's say, connected to the grid and to get the permits a lot faster. So the improvement of the last few years is really astonishing, and we still see quarter after quarter improvements taking place there. So things are getting better, but you still need to know your way around. And of course, a lot of legislation is only available in Greek, which is not that easy for most people either. Looking at the transmission system, so Greece aims to support the integration of renewables with an increased system of flexibility through battery storage, hence the tender that also Lucia was referring to, and demand-side response. Next to that one, Greece also has a massive amount of islands, which are still relying a lot on diesel generators or oil-fired power plants. Also, those will be grid connected, at least inhabited, the populated islands, by 2030 to get rid of this fossil-fired electricity generation. So also there you will see that due to the flexibility that you require, the weak end lines of the grid, storage, for example, and solar will be a very important element of achieving that goal. So the future looks bright on that one in that sense, but the technical challenges will remain still for a long time in place. Since 2020, or the end of 2020, the domestic wholesale electricity market operates in accordance with the basic principles as set by the European Union. That means you have the energy forward market, you have the day ahead market, the intraday market, and then the power and energy balancing market. Now, important to know is that the first three are managed by the electricity market operator, HENEX. The last one is operated by the transmission system operator, IPTO. And this is not very different to what we see in other countries in that sense. But it means that when you start stacking several energy markets together for battery projects, for example, you need to take that into account that the rules of the game are slightly different in that respect. One very important element that Greece is focusing upon, which is slightly different from what we see, for example, in Western Europe today, is this self-consumption optimization. This has to do especially with the situation that Greece has regarding the islands and regarding the very distributed offtake of energy across the country. And in that sense, they need to improve power reliability, but also reduce the total CO2 footprint of their electricity generation. So in order to limit the maximum power export of the installation to the grid, functionality particularly important on congested grids, batteries will play an important role. We see today that a lot of large-scale power plants, and I'm talking about 100, 200, 300 megawatt PV plants, for example, are not getting any permit to inject into the grid. So you need to connect them to industrial off-takers, for example, with zero injection, and then look into other possibilities for that one. At the end of the presentation, I'm coming back to a specific use case that we recently did for this one, just to show how to look at grid connections into the Greek market. Next to that one, there are a lot of regulations and challenges that you need to go through. Of course, which we are all familiar with probably are the requirements for generators, the 2016-631. For those who are involved in this one, please note this is currently under review by the European Union, and probably next year there will be a new version of this one coming out, specifically adding batteries, vehicle to grid, and demand response. So there are a couple of changes that are upcoming on this requirements for generators. Participation, frequency, and voltage regulation. So maintaining grid stability is of course crucial when you add so much renewables to the grid. So it is imminent and important that you realize this one when setting up a project, whether it is solar or it's batteries or a combination thereof, that you look into grid control mechanisms, which can also generate additional revenues if you're playing it smart. Today, you actually have 4 different setups on this one, actually 3 different setups. One is where you have the storage facility or the storage and renewable energy station acting actually as one single licensing entity. This is what we see here on the right-hand side. The other one is where the storage facility and or the renewable energy system is operating completely independent from each other with independent metering and licensing permitting. So when you're setting up a project, also here it is important at the very beginning to make a choice which of those elements you will go for, because the licensing trajectory to go through is quite different in that sense. In general, they are categorized into 3 different groups, let's say, mostly coordinated by the voltage that you're connected to. So below 100 kilowatt, the typical low voltage installations. The high voltage above 10 megawatt, and the category in between 110 megawatt is on the medium voltage line. So also there, you need to see what kind of capacity you have on the premises itself, or which line is possible to be connected to that land plot, for example, in the middle of nowhere. Also here, you need to know that all the costs involved with upgrading the grid, all the cable costs, all the installation costs will be charged to you as the developer or as the operator of the asset. So there is no waiver on this one. Everything, all of these costs will have to be borne. Oops, sorry. When we're looking at grids, and this is especially true for the Greek grid, but also across Europe, 40% of Europeans' power distribution grids are over 40 years old. When we turn the clock back 40 years ago, we were looking at large centralized power plants. When we turn the clock forward 5 years ago, further, or maximum 10 years further, most of the grids will be operated with distributed generation. So you can imagine that this is putting a certain strain onto the grids. And what we often pretend on this one as well is that no matter if we like it or not, the grid operators, even if they want to, they will not be able to follow. So you will have to treat the grid as a scarce resource, a scarce asset, in order to maximize the value that you can generate with the development of a project. And in that one, you really need to understand the cost structure of the grid, but also technical capabilities of the grid. How can you maximally profit from the technical capabilities that the grid is offering? What can it do, but also what can it not do? And in that way, design your plant or operate your plant into that window. It's very important with the existing infrastructure, the possibility of accessing renewable energy stations for the connection of storage facilities, that we use this to the maximum extent. And most of the large-scale projects, they will have to connect to the 400 kilovolt grid in Greece, for example, which sometimes is a very far distance to take care of. And this has shown to be a killer in some cases. In other cases, it is a blessing. Oh, come on. Sorry. As I said before, the Greek government is really doing its utmost best to provide the necessary framework for renewable energy systems to come to the grid, and that includes storage. So what we are still debating upon in the Greek market is certain services which may already be available in other countries are not yet available in Greece, for example. So European target models for energy storage have the possibility to provide other services to support the Greek electricity system. So the more we get these online, the more we get these regulated, the more possibilities will be created for storage systems and decentral energy systems to come online. So for example, frequency response, contribution to inertia and short circuit level, grid decongestion, which was mentioned by Lucia as well before. Emergency reserve is something that is really becoming a hot topic. Voltage and reactive power management. So all of these elements will create additional opportunities, additional revenues for storage. Given the past legislation period that were taking place and the current situation with the Greek government, which is now back in place, I don't expect that this will take a long time for these legislations to pass through, but it's important to keep an eye on it and mark them at this moment as an opportunity versus a risk in your business plan. When we're looking at electrical studies that we're offering, when we're supporting developers or investors, it can be a very, very wide range. So it really depends which stage of the development are you, what is the risk at that moment, where do you want to go to, what do we need to cover. But we can go from all the way from conceptual optioneering studies, feasibility studies, up to grid integration studies, including RFG, power quality, etc., all the way up to design studies, substation design, distribution of electrical networks, earthing and lighting protection studies, protection systems, you name it. So it means we can support you into the Greek market, but also across Europe, from the very first initial conceptual idea all the way until the plant is being built and accepted for grid operation. And that makes us a bit into a unique situation where initially we're focusing a bit more on the financial side of things, the feasibility. In the end, we go really deep dive into the technologies itself. But only in that way you can coordinate and offset your risk of your investment. So in order for the feasibility studies, what we typically use for this one is what we call our Grid Hive software simulation, where we can do this techno-economical analysis. And later on, at the end, this results into the Grid Hive control, the power plant controller operating the grid parameters that we have set into the business plan before, how that unit should operate, how it should behave to the grid, how it has to maintain power quality, etc., but also maximize revenues from your investment, of course. When we look at the features itself, so this is an example of a stacked revenue model, depending on, let's say for a multi-year scenario, you see certain revenue streams going down, others relatively stable. On top, you see a few of those ones growing. And that gives you a variability actually over your business plan. This is now not specifically for the Greek market, but we can tailor this actually to the specific market conditions and the specific markets that can be optimized for that one. So as promised, two quick case studies. One that we completed recently was for a zero injection, where we connected a very large PV system, about more than 200 megawatts in total, that was potential there, to an industrial load. Since we could not inject into the grid, the client wanted to develop or at least review the possibility for green hydrogen and also for green ammonia, so the so-called power to X optimizations. Now, due to the zero injection, we saw that the bigger the PV system, the IRR of the project decreased with increasing project size. So we simulated this between 50 and 500 megawatts. But if you don't add demand side, then the IRR will start decreasing and the project would significantly be reduced in size in that sense. When you look at the self-consumption, there was an optimum around only 120 megawatt peak based on financial threshold criteria. So also there, it was not really maximizing the land plot that was available if we just look at the factory load itself. If you look at 100% autonomy, that could be achieved with 350 megawatt PV plus 170 megawatt 4-hour battery, but the IRR would be too low in order to become a viable business case. So you see that you have several parameters where you can start playing with and see how you can optimize a business case in order to get to the objective that you're trying to achieve. Then we've played a bit further with the best size, which did allow us actually to increase the IRR. We could work with flexible demand a bit more on this one. The electrolyzer profitability was very dependent on the capacity factor and the energy prices from the grid. So we could still withdraw from the grid, but we could not inject. And prices on the grid were fluctuating, which was actually quite jeopardizing for the profitability of the electrolyzer itself. The hydrogen production in the end did not really turn out to be very profitable compared to their core business at this moment, and was also very, very dependent on the storage size. So in the end, we had an optimal configuration at about 250 megawatt PV, 90 megawatt battery for 4 hours, and a 70 megawatt electrolyzer, but still with a non-viable IRR without subsidies. It was, let's say, a positive business case, but too low IRR actually for an investor to start working on that one. But it was the most optimal case at that moment, and this can then be used, for example, to ask for grants and support from the local government or from the European government in that sense. Another optimization that we did, for example, was for a 600 megawatt cluster of PV systems spread across a larger area, where this need to be connected to a 400 kilovolt main transport line. It resulted actually in a specific transformer configuration of 2 times 280 megawatt plus a 150 megawatt transformer, whereas another option which was considered initially would result in a cost increase of about 9 million euro. So also there you can really look at how can we optimize cost, what about risk, what if one transformer fails, for example, what is the likelihood for that one? All of those elements can be evaluated. So this was in a quite early stage so that the developer knew how to move forward with the grid connection application and get the production license for this plant in that sense. So in a nutshell, as a conclusion, the financial support of storage units embedded in renewable energy plants and auto-upgraded functionality of the latter in the markets shall initially be provided through the existing renewable energy support framework. There is no additional support provided for battery systems. So it all runs through the same renewable energy system support framework as it is for solar, as it is for wind and other renewable energy sources. When you look at integrated storage without the possibility of importing energy from the grid, because this is an important one, that renewable energy stations with behind the meter storage and the ability to import energy from the grid will not receive operational support, as mentioned in point 1 here, as it is excluded for storage projects that perform energy arbitrage. Why is that? Because they can also consume energy from the grid, which is not 100% renewable. So from that perspective, I think it's important to realize that there are several elements actually in that one that you need to take care of. Then I think we hit the floor for questions.
First of all, thank you very, very much for a fantastic presentation, Guy. I personally enjoyed it very much. Also, welcome back, Lucia. Indeed, unfortunately, we are almost out of time, but we can take a few more minutes to attend to some questions. So at this point, I do want to remind our audience as well, if you have any pressing questions that you didn't post yet, now is the time to do so. So let's see what we have. One of the questions that was posed was, is there another more mature storage market in Europe that can serve as a learning point for the upcoming storage market in Greece? Maybe you want to go first.
Yeah, sure. I think the most mature market for storage today in Europe, and correct me if you see it differently, Lucia, but I think that is the United Kingdom. It's literally an island. I think we already have projects there since 2016. When we look at mainland Europe, we see several projects coming up at this moment. I think honestly, the Belgian market at this moment is very interesting on that one as well. We see a lot of development there, permits being integrated. There's a lot of buzz in several other markets like Germany, the Netherlands, etc. as well. But for sure, we can learn a lot from the UK market.
And Lucia, what's your take on
that? I totally agree of what I say. Yes, UK is the most developed market in Europe. I think now it shows there the importance of the support of the government with the regulatory framework to support the services. I think this is a kind of, let's say, where all the markets have to look at to develop really and to integrate the storage system in the sector. So, but in any case, we have UK, but France, Italy, Greece, Spain, and there's a huge movement, even Bulgaria. So the necessity of the storage is so huge that there is really interesting movement from the government point of view, because we need to have a good framework, a regulatory framework to develop this project. So yes, UK is the first, but not forget the rest. Of course, in Germany, that I haven't said, from the point of view of the residential storage market, is really also a potential market in Europe. But we are there, and the inputs, as we have seen from our presentation and the figures we have shown, is really interesting.
And you mentioned both that the UK has a quite advanced regulatory framework. So what do you think Greece is lacking the most in at the moment in that regard?
Well, I think Greece is supporting. In fact, this tender for 1 giga divided in 3, and well, and from the regulatory point of view, I think it's not so bad. But there's one point that I think all the countries have to go for it, is the permitted matters, the connection to the grid. I think this is an important issue that has to be, or I don't know which is the best solution, because sometimes you hear sharing the power of the nodes or whatever. Making more agile the permitting, when it's storage, hybridization, etc. But from my point of view, in Greece, the regulatory framework is not so bad. There is quite a positive input from the government that they go for it. And the permitting regarding the grid connection is a point that it has to be solved somehow.
Yeah, I think the major element that we still lack in this one is, okay, we have a very weak grid, much weaker even than in the UK, and we have hardly any industrial activities compared to the UK, let's say. So that makes actually that the curves and the type of demands are different. If you then also take into account the decrease that we also saw on one of the slides that Lucia was showing on the decrease of the lignite, for example, how this has to be further replaced, etc. It's a different market in the way how it operates and the possibilities you have, especially from the grid constraints at this moment. It's much more distributed and much more scarce what you have available there, and that is putting certain difficulties in this one. But again, I just like to stress out again, the intention from the Greek government is really positive. So the framework, which is not yet in place, it will not take a long time before it will be in place. A lot has changed already in the last 3-4 years.
And so do you believe that every new storage project will include, every new solar project will include storage from 2025 onwards in Greece then?
I think it's a tendency in most of the countries, hybridization.
I would say more on this one. It's even mandatory now for your permitting. There is a priority list on this one. If you do not have storage alongside your PV plant, you will reduce your place on the ranking and therefore basically not get grid connected.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that was our last question for today. And I think we're just in time to close off this webinar. So I really want to thank you once again for 2 amazing presentations, very engaging, very in-depth and detailed. So thank you both for being here. And a big thank you to our audience as well for attending. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, if you want to you would like to hear more about what's happening in the Greek solar market, we would like to see you on the 23rd of November in Athens. As I mentioned earlier, you're eligible for a 10% discount on your ticket if you are interested in buying and attending. You can see the speaker lineup and the topics you would hear about online on our website. And yes, our marketing team will communicate more information on this with you within the next couple of days. Also, this webinar will become available to you online shortly hereafter, so you can rewatch it or share it with your peers. And for any further questions, don't hesitate to contact me and reach out to me, and I'm happy to share it with me and Lucia and get back to you. Thank you and have a lovely rest of the day.
My pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good day.